Pokemon Legends ZA is going to be set after Pokemon X and Y, which was surprising to many because Pokemon Legends Arceus, the previous Pokemon Legends game, was actually set in the past, about 150 years before the events of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. While I personally think that this is a really exciting direction for the franchise, and I'm definitely open to it, there are some things that I am upset about having lost because of this game being set in the future. Today I'll be covering everything that won't be happening or very likely won't be happening in Pokemon Legends ZA because of the time period it's set in, and we can kind of decide based off that whether or not we think that setting this game in the future rather than the past was the right choice. Welcome back to the post where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about Pokemon Legends EA being set in the future and kind of what we've lost because of this. So let's start off with my favorite thing from Pokemon Legends Arceus that will not be returning in Pokemon Legends EA, and that is the catching. Specifically, the catching style is back, but the Pokeballs will not be the same. We won't be using the Hisuian Pokeballs, and this is such a minor nitpick, I admit. But man, the Hisui Pokeballs were so cool. Seeing the wood, seeing that these were man-made, man-crafted, was so neat. But we can see in the trailer for Pokemon Legends EA that they will be using the modern Pokeballs. And this, of course, makes sense because it is a modern game after all. It'd be weird if we were running around with an ancient version of a device that, frankly, is manufactured in the Kalos region. That would be strange. So it makes sense why they did this, but I am still upset about it. I'm also still just in general upset that they decide to make it when you transfer a Pokemon from Hisui, they no longer retain their Pokemon Legends Arceus ball. Instead, they are now in the Strange Ball. I don't like that, but is what it is. This does make me wonder, though, what Pokemon Legends EA will do with the Pokeballs, because in Legends Arceus, the Pokeballs made sense, right? Because this was a game where you yourself were throwing the Pokeball had different functions. Whereas in the traditional Pokemon games, Pokeballs functions just kind of help you catch the Pokemon depending on what kind of Pokemon it is, or something similar to that. The Pokeballs in Legends Arceus affected how you'd throw them. The Heavy Ball, for example, would kind of not go as far and would drop a lot faster, whereas the Jet Ball, you would be able to kind of throw it and it go really far away. It was kind of how you could catch Pokemon flying around up in the air, so it made sense. But since we're in the modern setting, Jet Balls won't be a thing. So will they invent a new Pokeball, one that is a modern version of the Jet Ball? I could see this being the case, again, since the Pokeball factory is in Kalos. They could explain, hey, we got this shipment of new Pokeballs in from the Pokeball factory up there in Lavera City. I could see that, but either way, I'm a little bummed that the classic little wood style with the steam shooting out of the top, that won't be there. Another thing that we will be missing is just kind of the vibe between people and Pokemon. Pokemon strives hard to, in their games, show us that, hey, Pokemon are our friends, and often, the story is basically about you defeating the villain because your bond with your Pokemon was even stronger. And that's super cute and super fun and kind of how I like to see myself with my Pokemon. But in Legends Arceus, that vibe was so different because everyone was terrified of Pokemon. They were these vicious monsters, not these cute little pets, right? And so because of that, it kind of made my connection with my team feel even stronger because it felt like I was proving a point, right? It felt like I was defying everyone's expectations of me. And so setting a game in the past like that, where people are still terrified of Pokemon and, the devices to capture them and kind of the relationship between people and Pokemon hadn't yet changed, did just really make that game feel unique. So setting Legends EA in the modern day and kind of taking away that instead, us having the modern relationship we have with Pokemon, and even the whole plot of the game seems to be Quasartico trying to make a Lumio city that can better allow humans and Pokemon to coexist together. It just doesn't quite capture that same vibe, and it doesn't need to, but it is something I will miss and something I really enjoyed about Legends Arceus. Lastly, there are a couple of storylines from Legends Arceus that I was really convinced would carry over in the next Legends game, but because this game isn't set in the past, I don't know that they can. So first off, we have the storyline with Ingo. For those who don't remember, in Legends Arceus, Ingo, the battle subway boss from Generation 5, was seemingly transported back into time to the days of Hisui. He doesn't really have much of his memories. He remembers his name's Ingo. He kind of gets some flashes, like he kind of remembers that he has a brother that looks like him. He kind of remembers his partner, Chandelure, but ultimately he doesn't remember much, and his story's never solved. He never finds his way back home, gets all his memories, nothing like that. He is left in the days of Hisui. So I was always kind of convinced, okay, well, especially when we got the announcement of a Legends game set in Kalos, I was like, all right, well, Kalos has that railway system. What if Ingo comes over to Kalos and we kind of get some closure to his story? But that doesn't seem to be happening. However, since this game is set in the modern day, there is a chance that we could get not closure to the story, but another side of the story. Maybe we'll run into Emmett, and Emmett will kind of share with us that, you know, something happened to his brother, and we kind of learn a little bit about that. I have heard some people suggest the idea of Emmett being in the ZA Royale in order to get the wish that we're told we can get by making it to rank A. And this wish would allow him to see his brother again. But I'm going to be real. For one, I think we're misinterpreting those wishes. I think those wishes are within the realm of possibility, like within the realm that Quasartico or that the, you know, government of Lumiose can do, right? Like you see the examples they give as one guy wants to get rid of all transportation except for taxis. It's a little odd. And then another lady wants to hold a marathon. So, you know, it seems weird to me that they would then have Emmett be here and he's like, I want my brother to come back from the dead or wherever he is. And then not only that, but you have to make it to rank A, right? So you're kind of a huge jerk if you trump Emmett to get ahead, right? So yeah, it'd be too out of place. And also, I don't think that's really what the wishes are. And then that's kind of the thing too, is while we might meet Emmett and learn more about what happened, ultimately, I don't know that there'll be closure to this story because it kind of seems like too big of a deal, too heavy of a plot to be a side quest, but it also kind of seems like, you know, the elements that you'd be incorporating there with fallers and ultra wormholes and stuff at space-time rifts, that doesn't seem to be evident in these games. Now, we don't know much, so maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't feel like it works into the plot of these games very well. But who knows? I'd love to be wrong because I would like to see Ingo reunited with his brother again. And if you don't want that, you're a sick person. Next up is Volo. Volo. So if you've been fans of the channel for a while, you know that I love Volo. One of the coolest Pokemon villains ever, genuinely horrifying, and also I have a little theory about him, and that is that he is a time traveler. So basically where this is all coming from is in the game Legends Arceus, when you're fighting him, after the battle, he says that like, oh, you know, I will achieve my goal, and he says something to the effect of like, I'll spend eons if I have to. And that's a little weird because people don't live for eons, but if you were a time traveler, you could take eons, right? Because you basically can travel through time, so you can kind of travel through eons. And then also, too, his team is modeled after Cynthia's, so perhaps it's because he's not an ancestor to Cynthia. The ancestor to Cynthia in Legends Arceus is Kogita, but instead he is a descendant of Cynthia. And so because of that, he modeled his team after his ancestor, who was the champion of the Sinnoh region, and traveled back in time to use that team to kind of dominate the world of Hisui, right? Then there is this line from Laventon where like he says that he doesn't think we've seen the last of Volo, but spoiler alert, at that point you have seen the last of Volo. So I feel like it makes sense for him to appear again one day. Since we're not being set in the past, my theory would have to be true. He would have to be a time traveler in order to appear in these games. And if that's the case, that'd be really, really cool. Imagine a twist ending where he is actually behind Quasartico or something. That would be insane. But ultimately, the guy's seeking out Arceus, so I don't think he has much of a place to be here in the Kalos region. I imagine it'd be another Sinnoh game, or perhaps even a Johto game where we see Volo pop up, not here in Kalos, so I do think that that's not going to happen. Next up is the story of Rai. This is one that I personally kind of care about. I don't think it's on everyone's minds, but Rai is a character you meet in Legends Arceus. He's training with his Lucario, and at the end, he and Lucario decide to go to another region so that they can, kind of further their strength together. So the common theory has been that Rai perhaps goes to the Kalos region and ends up becoming the first trainer to ever Mega Evolve a Pokemon, because we know that was a trainer who came to Kalos from another region and had a Lucario and Mega Evolved that Lucario. And since Rai is seeking more power for him and Lucario, Mega Evolution does seem like the natural next step. But since this game is set in the modern day, Rai is long dead, but perhaps we could see his descendant, Riley, or even just kind of get a nod in the Lumiose Museum that, hey, the first trainer to ever Mega Evolve a Lucario was a guy named Rai. So that would be a way to close off that story, but ultimately it is a shame that we won't get to witness it happen. And again, there's always a chance that it wasn't Rai at all, and this is all just, a red herring or not even connected, right? But yeah, so ultimately, these are all the things that I'm upset that we will not be getting because Legends EA is set in the future. However, I think there's many opportunities that Legends EA has by being set in the future to kind of play around with other things. Sure, it may not connect to Legends Arceus as much, but honestly, more so, X and Y deserves it getting a connection, and being set after X and Y allows it to do that, tying together the stories of AZ and Floette, perhaps answering the question of did Lysander really die, and also answering some mysteries from X and Y, like, for example, the Lumiose Ghost Girl. We really need this one addressed, and we are in Lumiose City, so if they don't address it, I'm gonna go nuts, but I'm getting off topic. Point is that they have opportunity to connect this to X and Y, which is the game that needs it more. So I think that setting it in the future, setting it after X and Y, when I'm talking future, I mean relative to X and Y, that does make a lot of sense, and I am here for it. But yeah, let me know what you think. Are you upset about these games being set after X and Y, or, do you like this idea, despite it being different from the last Legends game? Where do you want the next Legends game to be set, and when? Let me know all this in the comments below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and until next time, I will see all of you later.